In the automotive world, it's not uncommon for a large mainstream automaker to design a vehicle based on a platform that will ultimately be also sold as a luxury variant with a few cosmetic tweaks on the outside and a butt-ton of interior features added to the inside.
This vehicle that we're driving today is a class-leading example of that kind of trick.
See, when Toyota designed its BZ4X electric car, a car that we recently said was kind of an exercise in mediocrity, it also decided to use that same platform, the ET&G platform, to underpin the Lexus version of the same, the Lexus RZ450e, which is the car that we find ourselves in today. It's built with the same kind of attention to detail for the drivetrain and battery pack. It's built on the same chassis. It has a different nose and a different rear. But other than that, it should, on paper at least, be a bit like the Toyota to drive. But there's a problem. This car has been jammed with so much extra stuff. The whole thing goes down a whole grade.
So then,
this is a car that makes me angry.
why?
I feel that is something I want to save until the end of the video, and you're just going to have to watch me stewing and fuming for, I don't know, the next 20 minutes. I can't look at you, by the way.
No.
The car will not let me look at you.
Yes, if you look away, then it shouts at you.
Literally straight forward. Even if I look down slightly, which is what I'm doing right now, I'm still looking ahead, but I've moved my gaze down a little bit, and in a second the car is going to go, "Oi, you're not looking in the right direction." It's just weird.
It is extremely strict on enforcing driver attentiveness.
More so than the Toyota BZ4X.
Yes, it would seem that way.
So let's start with the specs. I mean, look, yes, I would like to just sit here and fume, but that's not going to make a very good review. So this car, to all intents and purposes, because it's built on the ET&G platform, and no Star Trek jokes in this one, because this car has made me too angry for Star Trek.
This car does not deserve the Star Trek jokes.
Back to the fact that this is an ET&G platform car, and it is effectively the same size and whatnot as the Toyota BZ4X, which was mediocre. But
it was, but this one is all-wheel drive.
This one is... Again, this is the first time I think I've ever driven a car that was an all-wheel drive variant of another model that we've driven that was worse. Normally adding an extra motor makes it better.
Yeah, traditionally it makes the handling better, it gives you a bit more balance. And obviously then there's the grip. And this car does have more grip, I think.
Oh, so okay, it's got a 150 kilowatt motor at the front, and it's got an 80 kilowatt motor at the rear, which combined is what, 300-ish horses?
Yeah.
But it's the wrong way round.
Yeah, it doesn't have rear bias, because it's got the big motor up front. It's got the big motor
at the front, which means it drives like a front-wheel drive car.
Yes.
It doesn't drive like a like a rear-wheel drive car, which most all-wheel drive vehicles do. You either have a motor at the rear that is larger, or you have a motor that is perfectly matched between the axles. And I'll check it's safe to do this, but I mean, it shifts 0 to 60, so 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, 62 miles per hour.
It shifts,
is about
you get
5.
that front end lift.
Yeah, it's about 5 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Which is not.
It's not bad. It's
not
good.
bad.
I mean, in raw numbers, that's not bad.
But when you put your foot on it, it does lift the front end, and then it makes the steering feel a little bit whoa, a little bit way, and again, not in a good way. I think part of the problem with this car is it's got massive 20-inch wheels on it, and there is an 18-inch wheel variant and a 20-inch wheel variant, and this is the top trim, so it's the 20-inch wheel variant.
Yeah, they have to give you the sexy car when they're reviewing.
71 kilowatt hour battery pack.
Yeah.
Which again was the same as the all-wheel drive BZ4X.
Yes. So I think my recollection is it's like half a kilowatt hour larger than you get on the rear wheel drive variant, which it doesn't feel like enough to make it worthwhile. I don't really understand how they came to the conclusion that would make up for the loss of range that you get from having an all-wheel drive vehicle.
It really does not in any way, shape or form. The all-wheel drive variant, right, the Toyota all-wheel drive variant, on paper, I think they were evenly matched, right? The motors, if I remember correctly, were a little bit more evenly matched than they are in the Lexus. And it felt then like it was, okay, well, you get a little bit more power, because I think you got 80 kilowatts for both motors in that variant.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
And it was, okay, this is more about having snow mode. It's more about having tractability in poor conditions. Look, Lexus's hybrids are very well designed, just like the Toyota hybrids. They've got good capabilities, they've got good handling and reasonably good efficiency, and obviously Lexus prides itself as more of a kind of performance stroke luxury marque. It's not completely luxurious, it's not completely performance, it's kind of a mish of the two.
Yeah.
But in this case, it feels like they threw stuff at the wall and saw what would stick.
I never feel like it quite hits the mark. I feel like you can see what they were intending, but it never quite gets there.
And the driving feel is just, it's so pedestrian. Like going into corners in this feels not as nauseating as some of the cars you've driven, but it does feel dangerous because the car has a habit of not letting you know exactly where the front wheels are, which I don't like. It's not helped by the fact that the steering wheel feels like it's got a pool noodle on it. This is not leather. It's not plastic. Honestly, it feels like the same material a pool noodle is made of. It's kind of this squidgy foam, which in a car that's $68,000, I do not like. As you go into a corner in this car, it lets you know, hey, you're going into the corner and you slow down. And it almost completely understeers at every moment until you get below a certain speed, and then guess what happens?
Well, then it tucks right in.
And it's the most disconcerting thing because it upsets the whole drivetrain.
Yeah, you get this kind of hump of feeling as you go around the corner. It's very,
and
very pronounced.
I'm glad you felt it too.
Yeah, as soon as you start pushing it, it's really noticeable.
So it's like, I don't mind if you understeer, I don't mind if you oversteer, but pick one.
Yeah, that would be preferable.
All in all then, steering wheel feels like a pool noodle, terrible feedback for the driver, accelerator is meh, brake is meh, lots of road noise, terrible range. Is there anything else positive that we can possibly say?
Well, we could talk about the interior.
Yeah, let's do that. But you know what? I think that's going to be a you thing. Yeah, like that. Wow, that's really good. And we didn't even get wet or anything.
I know. It's a neat trick. I try not to do it too often.
So there are some weird things about this interior.
What, like it's lifted directly out of the 1980s?
No, like the fact, look, it goes this way.
Yes, and then
it goes this way.
Like magic. That is one of my favourite features of the entire car.
That you didn't know about until this morning when I showed it to you.
Yeah, I was swearing about it because I was like, this is ridiculous. You thought it
opened that way?
No, I thought it opened
this way.
And I was like, well, that's aggravating for the passenger. But actually, nice touch.
It's a nice little fancy schmancy thing going on here.
Yes.
I bet it will break really easily.
Probably.
There's no glove box though.
No, but there is a mismatched piece of fabric there that doesn't match anything else except just under the steering
wheel. You mean this bit here? Yeah, that's just weird. And it looks like someone has played tic-tac-toe on here.
Which doesn't speak very well about the durability of that material.
No, it's just weird. I know it wasn't us.
No. I'm actually going to give a hat tip to a colleague at work who likes to come out and see what cars Nikki brings up when, we come out and we've finished work and we both had a 12-hour shift. She's often had a 16-hour shift, but that's, She walks out and she looks at it and, let's just say she had opinions about the exterior looks of the vehicle that were not complimentary. And then... I
would agree based on what you told me she said.
And then on the interior, she just said that she said that it looked like she'd been born in this car basically because it looks like the 80s.
It really does, in some ways. The front, maybe not this bit.
I feel like this looks like if you asked the designers who did kit to come up with a modern electric car in the 80s, they would have done this. If you'd have told them they could have a big touchscreen, they'd have been like, oh, yes! Now, you commented on the driver's cluster.
Right.
And you said it's clear. Which, it's a kind of a soft focus clear.
So the head-up display is very good.
The head-up display is very good, although I think you've now positioned it somewhere where I can't see it. Yeah, because it doesn't move with the seat.
It's a capacitive interface.
Yeah.
Which is lifted directly out of the Prius, I seem to recall. The Prius used it and a couple of other vehicles from the Toyota Lexus family used it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have any kind of any legend on the steering wheel.
No. The legend appears on the screen when you touch it, which is, for me, very distracting. Mm-hmm. I suspect once you get used to it, it's fine, but there are some things in here that I've never worked out how to access. So I know that there are other functions in here because it says that you can do more, but it ends up being very complicated to get to anything.
And of course, I don't know about you, but when I've been looking at the head-up display before, trying to figure out how to use it, the car then nags me for not looking at the road, even though I'm looking through the windscreen.
Yes.
Seemingly it can detect the focal length of the person.
It does seem to be looking at that.
And I have really, really bad squints, and I wear prismatic lenses to help me correct for that.
Yes.
And it still has trouble.
I think it just has trouble with us, both of us. The display is really clear though, and it is the first display I think I've encountered where even wearing my polarizing sunglasses, I can see it reasonably well, which was nice. If you sync, and I don't know whether this happens with CarPlay, but it does happen with Android Auto. If you use the navigation in Android Auto, so use Google Maps, it will display the turn-by-turn directions on here correctly because it's mirrored through phone screen. Wireless, Android Auto, wireless CarPlay, excellent. It displays them incorrectly on here.
Yes, I noticed that too.
So it will say straight ahead as you're coming up to a junction that it wants you to come off at until you are at the junction and passing it, at which point it will say, you should go right, now.
Yes.
Which is incorrect. And it doesn't do that if you use the in-car navigation. I checked that today because I wanted to be sure.
Talking about sun, this car has a fancy sunroof that is full of that fancy glass that could become opaque.
Yes, it's presumably a liquid crystal in that.
Maybe that's why its range is so bad.
It's just the power to keep the sun...
Did you have to pass current through it to make it clear, or pass current through it to make it opaque?
I don't remember. I'd have to watch...
on a postcard, please.
I'd have to watch The Secret Life of the watch to learn
Remember,
that.
yeah. Go and watch Tim Hunkin, he's great. So, Kate, how do you tell you're in a luxury car?
Is it leather seats?
No.
Oh, is it because your chauffeur's driving you?
Well, that's part of it, but...
It's because it's quiet.
Pardon?
It's quiet.
No, I'm quite fine, thank you. I ate before I came out.
No, it's quiet, Nikki.
Except it isn't.
No, I am stunned by how much road noise. And again, this is probably the 20-inch wheels transmitting extra road noise into the cabin.
And we should acknowledge at this point, we use wireless microphones, our gods, our deities. And then in post-production, we actually do remove a lot of the background sound because otherwise it would just be too distracting. But I can guarantee that this is going to be quite loud. Maybe we should just...
Hang on,
So what you're hearing right now is the noise from one of the cameras in the car. And that's quite loud.
Yeah.
Let's switch back to the lav mics. The other thing that just irks me is it almost feels like Toyota's Lexus team went, we need to put something in this car that makes people think they're driving a luxury vehicle. What features do luxury vehicles have? And they settled on door poppers.
Oh God, no, not the door poppers.
So Tesla has really nice fancy door handles that fit flush against the car. Model 3, Model Y flush against the car, and you press them and then you can grab hold of them and pull them. And I have some thoughts about usability of those. I've seen several elderly relatives kind of try and grab those to try and gain access to a Tesla that I've had on loan. And obviously the X and the S currently have those pop-out door handles. Other electric cars have similar pop-out door handles. We've driven some of them. This car doesn't have pop-out door handles. It has regular door handles that you put your hand around and you press, except they're not. They're electronic poppers.
Yeah, and they just pop the door that far
to give you access inside.
Yeah.
This inside, though, there's like this long rectangular lever, I suppose, that has a picture on it. It's got two arrows curving round, one filled in and one silhouetted. And the idea is that you're supposed to infer from that it is the door popper.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you push your thumb down on the little lovely textured button, which I quite like, it will pop the door open. But you have to also apply pressure to the door because otherwise the door doesn't properly open.
No, it just opens and then latches in a position where it doesn't want to open.
And if you then pull the lever, so you actually put your finger around the lever, obviously we're driving right now, I'm not going to do that, and then you pull it, you activate the manual lock. But even then it's not a manual lock because you then have to pull it twice to open the door. And it's the same lever.
Yeah.
So you push it one way to activate a solenoid and pull it the other way to manually release it.
Yeah.
Why?
I think that's the question about this vehicle.
Because it's a luxury vehicle.
Yeah.
Except it isn't. I think that this car has made me angry in ways that I didn't think it was possible for an electric vehicle to make me feel angry. Let's review 71 kilowatt hour battery pack.
Which in and of itself, I don't think would be a problem. I mean, in its segment, it's certainly small. But
well, no, 71 kilowatt hours would be fine. If this car achieved 2.5, 3.5, maybe even 4 miles per kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
But it achieves approximately, officially 198 miles per charge.
I have never seen anything like that. I mean, if you turn off the heating, then it says 201, 200?
Something like that.
Although actually I think typically it said 199 with the heating off.
So, for those who don't know, the Pacific Northwest has been pretty cold and there this last couple of weeks. And we're filming this the week of the summer solstice.
Can you not tell?
And it's been heavy rain and we had hail. The temperatures almost got down to freezing last night. Mount Hood had snow 2 days ago.
I'm wearing wool. It is June. I am wearing a wool undershirt.
And the reason I'm telling you this is because when I took this car up to you on Friday last week, it was raining. And I decided that I would drive gently. And I hypermiled it down the hill from my house to the valley. And then I hypermiled it up over Rocky Mountain Pass to hit Highway 30. If you're a local, you'll know where I'm talking about. And then out through Scappoose and St. Helens and up that way so I could jump over the river into Washington. While I was going over the pass, this car averaged 1.8 miles per kilowatt hour. 1.8. My Ford F-150 Lightning, which you've all told me is a terrible electron guzzler and I am a horrible person for owning, gets better fuel economy or better energy efficiency over that pass than this car did. And I wasn't driving it fast. I was driving it so slow that I had pickup trucks overtaking me on blind corners. I felt like I was a hazard to other people. I felt like I was giving electric vehicles a bad name, and I had the worst range anxiety. I drove the 150 miles to your place of work, your other place of work, with no AC on, nothing. I was miserable. I could not wait to get out of the car. I sat at 55 on the freeway. The only way I could get above like 2.5, 3 miles per kilowatt hour was to sit at 55 on the freeway. And it's down to those massive wheels, which might look good in some people's eyes, but give this car a terrible range. To be fair, if you buy the cheaper version of this car, which comes with smaller wheels, you get more than 200 miles per charge. What was your experience driving on the freeway with this?
I mean, I drove it home from work the day that you brought it up, and it started with 70, I think. I think it had lost 3 or 4 miles of range just sitting in the parking lot. And I don't know whether that's
battery conditioning, maybe?
I don't know. But by the time I got home, I had about 20 miles, and it's a 25-mile journey. So I got through nearly twice the range that it said it had when I started, although I did turn the heating on.
But then the next day, you had to go back and you started with a full charge.
I started with a full charge. I think it said either 200 or 199. I tooted about it, so, follow the channel because you get to see these things. But I turned on the heater and immediately lost 50 miles of range. And I'm not like turning it up to full. It was on 70 or 72, and I had the
so that's 22 Celsius thereabouts for those.
Drove it to work and back, and when I got home, it said 107. So I'd lost 100 miles of range in a 50-ish mile journey. Driving it down today to film, it's a 120-mile journey.
From yours to mine, yeah.
Yeah. We talked about this, and knowing that we would need to charge it because of the range that it gets, I actually had range anxiety about the fact that I had 63 miles to drive, and I was like, well, what if that charger isn't working? Can I actually make it to the next one? I don't know where the next charger is because it's not really till Portland.
And that's the challenge, right? I don't have a problem, and I want to reiterate here, I do not have a problem with small range EVs. No problem at all. We drove the Mini Cooper SE last year and we both absolutely loved it. It was a hoonable car that you could drive everywhere in a short radius and have bucket loads of fun in the process. I think it was one of my favourite cars from last year, despite its small battery pack, despite its limited range. I don't have a problem with a car with a sub 100 mile range like a used Nissan Leaf. Except this is not a used Nissan Leaf.
No.
This is a car that costs $68,000 in the configuration that we're driving it.
And it's just... There are many reasons that you could have a small battery, that would be fine.
Yes.
You could have a small range, that would be fine.
As long as it had an appropriate price point.
Yeah. This package at no level does it make sense to me. There's no one I could recommend this to.
No.
It just fundamentally lacks any kind of coherency to the way it works.
So we drove the BZ4X a couple of weeks ago, at least when we're filming this. And we described the driving experience as, okay, it's competent, but it's not exciting. It was an okay car. It's built on the same ETNG platform as this thing, but this thing is completely unrecognisable. It's got a stupidly large motor at the front, a ridiculously small one at the rear. It's not like the majority of EVs that use all-wheel drive, which either have an equally matched front and rear motor, like the Nissan Ariya, for example, the E-Force.
Yeah.
But more common is a small motor at the front
and something hefty at the back.
So you get a more traditional rear bias drive experience, which a lot of people prefer.
Yeah.
This has just got a stupidly large motor at the front, ridiculously small at the rear comparatively, and it doesn't have any road manners.
No.
We just came down a gravel track, and I don't ever want to repeat that. And the stupid thing is, you've got like 5 miles of gravel track to go back to where we're going.
And it's an all-wheel drive car. I also think that the packaging of the vehicle, the ETNGA platform, it just doesn't seem to optimize packaging, because the space just feels so compromised in ways that I find unexpected.
See, I can give Toyota a pass for the BZ4X, and I suspect the Solterra is going to be the car that we both enjoy the most from this family. But this one, they've put so much luxury and high-end features in it that they've compromised the one thing that this car needs to excel on at that price point, and that's range. And the reason it needs to excel at that price point on range is that it's going into the most overly subscribed market segment. Those not quite an SUV, not quite a crossover, not quite a hatchback, which is what most EVs on the market today are, the $60,000-ish price tag. Nobody in their right mind would choose this over a Model Y. Nobody in their right mind would choose this over a Kia EV6 or even a Nissan Ariya. And you didn't like the Nissan Ariya.
I was driving down and I was thinking, who would I recommend this to? Who I was trying to rack my brains for someone that this would fit. And I thought, could I in good conscience recommend the Ariya over this? And the answer is that I would still... For anyone else, I would say take the Ariya out. If this is your two choices, which, I mean, sad market where that's your two choices. But if this is your two choices, go look at the Ariya and see if it makes you nauseous and see if it makes your family nauseous. Because if it doesn't, for God's sake, take that. This is just... the only place I can see it selling is to fleet markets.
Fleet markets where, they want a particular look and they've got a buddy who works at the local Toyota/Lexus dealership.
Yeah. I mean, my father's company used to have a deal with GM. So you wanted a company car, you got it from GM.
Yeah, got a Cavalier, whether you liked it or not.
Yeah, basically you could have a Cavalier, or would Sir care for an Astra?
Yes, Yes.
So and
you didn't go for an Astra because Astras, if you were above a certain level of management, Astras were not the appropriate vehicle.
No, and my dad was never at the Carlton level, so
right.
It's going to be the Cavalier.
I also think, the charging time of this. Toyota says 100 and some kilowatts, right?
Yeah.
But again, it's that weird backwards thing where if this had a rear-wheel drive variant, it might charge quicker, but this one
Charges
doesn't
slower
have
because it's
a single rear variant, as far as I can tell. So slow to charge.
yeah.
And you said 60 kilowatts is about the highest you saw.
Yeah, and to be fair, I did plug it in at 50%, so that isn't the best, but also to get to 80% from 53 took 30 minutes.
And the car we had before this was the electrified GV70, a car that on paper we should not have liked. And we both enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It had a frunk. It had a decent load bay at the rear. It had in-car technology that made sense. It had comfortable seats that made sense. Premium content for about the same price as this car, but much more premium content.
And a really much more functional driver assistance system. As you said, much better charging.
800 volts battery, so much faster. Vehicle to load. So much better in every way. Like I say, this just makes me... we talked about reenacting that scene with the stick and Austin from Fawlty Towers, and decided against it because Lexus might get upset if we damage the paintwork. But I haven't felt this angry about a car. I think I feel more angry about this as a model that is available than I did even about the Mazda.
The Mazda is very clearly a compliance car that they sell to 10 people a year who are unlucky enough to buy one.
Mostly fleet customers.
Yeah. This is marketed as though it is a decent EV, and I think anyone who buys it is going to be disappointed. I think they're potentially going to be turned off driving an electric vehicle. And I find the interior of it and every part of it feels like no one really bothered. Like, they just went, well, we'll tick the box that we need 200 miles of range. How much battery do we need? All right, done.
Which is fine. Without those stupid wheels and without all of the things that take this from a car that was capable of 230, 240 miles, theoretically, 70 kilowatts should get you 270 miles.
Yeah.
I have a car with a 66 kilowatt hour battery pack that does 250 miles.
Yeah. I have a car with 64 and it does 240. I know, look, this is a luxury vehicle, it weighs more, I understand it's going to be less efficient. But it should not be 1.8 miles per kilowatt hour driving on a moderately cool day and...
over a mountain pass.
Well, down the freeway today, that's what I got. I calculated that just at 70 miles an hour, and believe me, today I was sticking very close to the speed limit, as I always do, but particularly for some reason today, I got 1.8 miles per kilowatt hour. I just cannot even.
And I'm sorry that this video has been us driving this car for a very short period of time and then dumping on it, but that's how we feel about this car. I think we best leave it there, Kate.
Probably.
And on that appropriately cold, wet and disappointing note, we are done with today's video. If you have comments, nice ones, you can leave a polite note below. You can leave something in the Discord chat room on Mastodon, or if you are a Patreon supporter, you can drop us a comment there. If you want more, subscribe, hit the bell and follow the links below to regularly support us with a YouTube membership or a Patreon subscription. You'll also find links to our Ko-fi, Bitcoin, swag store and that aforementioned Mastodon server.
Scrolling by on my right is the list of amazing charged up supporters, and shout outs go to our V2G Patreon supporters: Pedro Muro Pinheiro, Alan Tupper, Andrew Martin, Bennett Elder, Brophy Wolf, Chris Maxwell, Cyprian Laplace, Dan Blair, Gordon C. Hay Esker, John Trammell, Kyle Fox, Mark Eggleton, Peter Dillinger, Regine Fellows, Sean Tucker, Stefan Fremgen, Stephen Williams, Tesla in the Gong, Paul Bricknell, Tony Moss, Kyle Hodgson, Chris Ascenta, Denny Hyde, Lance Charles, Linda Irish, Mike Weeder and Paul Nelson. And finally, big thanks to our off-grid supporters: Paul Conway, Kevin Boroughbridge, Stephen O'Donoghue, Jim Burness, Robert Flannery, Aaron Han, Ellery Hensley, Rory Lorwin, JP Fagerback, Dave Kitchen, Andrew Glenn, Anonymous Freak, Chris and Michael Johnson, Clay Witt, CPU Freak 101, Eric Knack, Joe Bresney, Joe Hughes, John Henderson, Laura Reynolds, Marcel Ward, Matthew Drobnak, Nigel S, Reggie Watts, Will Graylan,
and Ian, who is probably just as disappointed with this car as we are. Don't forget that we make videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday on the main channel. A day earlier than that if you are a Patreon supporter or YouTube channel supporter. And then you'll find us on Sunday over on Take 2 for the Chicken and Garden update and our Sunday musing, where you get to hear more of our acerbic humour and us complaining about the EV industry.
Rapier Wit.
Rapier Wit, I prefer that better. Anyway, we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. We hope it's not raining and cold like it is here. We'll see you soon. And as always, keep evolving.